How's it going, everybody? It's Caleb here, and today I wanted to share this video with you guys. I went to a disc replay that had an absolute, just ridiculous amount of PS2 games, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I've been on the hunt for PS2 games a lot recently. I actually have broken over 100 PS2 games after this video, because of this video, actually. So I'm happy about that. I've reached one of my goals. One of my goals was to get at least 100 PS2 games, and I finally got in there thanks to this store. But as you can see, this store was amazing with how many PS2 games they had. They had so many of them. And I went in there looking for some specific things, and I did actually find a few of the specific things I was looking for, which was pretty exciting, and you'll see them towards the end of the video. Now, I will leave a time on the screen now for if you just want to go and skip to my actual pickups, but I did want to share this store for the people that want to see what the store looks like, because it was pretty crazy. There's Malice. That's a game I almost picked up. The only reason I didn't is because it didn't have its original cover art. And I did see that Kim Possible there. That is an amazing 2.5D side-scrolling platforming game, so I had to pick it up. And there was a lot of games I saw there that I was tempted by. I was tempted by a lot. I could have gone crazy in this store. Like, if you would have said, hey, go spend like $1,000 in the store, I honestly probably could have done it pretty easily. But however, I had to control myself a little bit. But I did pick up a lot of games here. But I went in here looking for some specific stuff. One of the things I was looking for I actually didn't find. I was looking for some of the Sims games. I was looking for mainly Sims, Herbs in the City, and Sims Bustin' Out and stuff like that. And I didn't find any of those. They did have Sims 2 Castaway, and I was tempted by it, but the only problem was that it didn't have its cover art, which was a problem with a lot of the games that they did have, is that a lot of the games that at least I was looking at and the games that I wanted didn't have the cover art. And I don't really care too much about if they have the manuals or not, but cover art is one of the things that I really prefer to have. There's Shepherd's Crossing. That's a game that I've actually been looking at for a while. It was on my list to pick up, and I saw it here for an okay price, so I went ahead and picked it up. I think I got this for, like $15, and I think it usually goes for around that, $15 to $20, so pretty standard, but that way I didn't have to wait for it, and I was able to just get it on site. It's a farming RPG. I'm always up for farming RPGs, and I haven't played a whole lot of the PlayStation 2 one, so why not give it a shot? That's what I was thinking, at least. Some of the other games I was looking for, I didn't find either. I was looking for some GameCube games, and their GameCube selection, you'll see here in a little bit also, was not very big, and the games that they did have were just kind of ridiculously priced. That's the GameCube in general, though. The GameCube is just an expensive system to collect for now. I saw Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. I love that game, but I already own it, so no reason to pick that up. Saw Star Wars Battlefront 2, another game that I love, but already have it. There's Battlefront 1 as well. I did pick up a Flat-Out 2 at the beginning of the video. That is one that I definitely needed in my collection. I love that racing game. And there's Powerpuff Girls Relish Rampage. That is also another amazing game. I already own it, though. This one I'd never heard of. PK Out of the Shadows. It's some sort of like Disney Donald Duck superhero game. I had never heard of it. It was made by Ubisoft, so I figured I'd give it a shot and see what it's like. I'm always up for platformers. There was Obscure. That game I used to have, and I don't know where it went. There's a few games I used to have that just randomly disappeared, and I have no idea where they went. That is one of them. I never even got to play it, actually. I actually lost it before I even got to play it. I don't know what happened to that game. I really don't. I wish I would have been able to try it, but, it is what it is. And now it's more expensive than I'm willing to pay for it, because, it's something I've never played before. And I think that copy was over $20, and that just was more than I was wanting to really spend on it. I saw this Warhammer game here. Didn't have its original cover art, so I put it back. But that Warhammer 40k game is a game I have been wanting to play on the PS2. I was also looking for Buffy the Vampire Slayer on PS2, but they did not have that one either, unfortunately. I saw down below on the bottom shelf that they had Zathura. Zathura is an interesting one because it's a good movie. I didn't even know that there was a video game of it until I saw it on the shelf there. I didn't know that it had a video game. I also saw Yeast, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I didn't know that there was a video game for Zathura. I was a little bit tempted by that, but I went ahead and just decided to pass on that. But if you haven't seen the movie for it, it's pretty good. It's been like there's a board game that they're playing and it controls their house, and their house is like in space and stuff, and whatever like what happens in the board game happens in real life, so it's pretty interesting. I went ahead and looked at some of the Sega Saturn stuff. I don't have one anymore, but I just kind of wanted to take a look at it. And then you can see I turned the camera around real quick because I saw some Philips CDI games, and that's the first time I've ever seen those in a retail store. So that was pretty cool. I think that's the first time I've ever even seen them in person. I don't think I've ever seen those in person. So that was actually really cool to see. So I wanted to show them on camera for a minute. They actually, even towards the front, and I didn't get on video, I wish I would have, they even had a Neo Geo console at the front, which was just really cool to see. It was even in the box. They were wanting like $1,200 for it or something crazy, but it was just cool to see. Tons of Xbox 360 games. Nothing I was looking for, but I did go to a half-price books later on in the day, and I did find an Xbox 360 game there that you'll see later on. I did look at the PS3 games. Again, though, nothing I was really looking for that was there. Watching this video back, I did see that there was a Dark Souls there that I kind of wish I would have looked at. I like Dark Souls 2, actually, more than Dark Souls 1, which I know is kind of like a odd opinion, but I think I just have more nostalgia for it because I played Dark Souls 2 first. But yeah, just a ton of those games. They had some original Xbox games, but nothing that I really needed. There was one game I wish I would have looked for, and that's Conkers on the Xbox Live and Reloaded. I wish I would have looked for it, and I just completely forgot about it. PlayStation 1 games, quite a few stacks of PS1 games. This was one of those systems, though, again, that just didn't have a whole lot of the cover art, or I guess in this case the manual, because the manual is the cover art for a lot of PS1 games. But a lot of these just didn't have it, unfortunately, because there were some games I was wanting. There was just some Spyro games. I don't have any of the Spyro PS1 games. I have that, like, new collection, and I really would like to get some of the PS1 games, but they didn't have the cover art. Saw PN03 there. Saw Pikmin 2, which was way overpriced. I don't understand why some of these GameCube games are that expensive. Animaniacs there was over $100, and I'm just like, there's 2 copies of it. Like, you have 2 copies. Why is this game over $100? This is the one thing I hate about the GameCube, and I made a video saying that I wanted to get 100 video games for each system, and I just don't think it's going to happen for the GameCube. There's Sims Herbs, but it's more expensive on the GameCube than it is on the PS2, and I have more nostalgia for it on the PS2 anyway. But yeah, the more I think about it, like, the GameCube prices are just so ridiculous. Like, there's games that are so much cheaper that are multi-platform on the system that are so much cheaper to just get the PS2 version or the Xbox version. So I may not get 100 games for the GameCube after all, just because of how pricey it's going to be if I do try to get some of the games I want. Which kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's not a huge loss because it wasn't a system I grew up with. I grew up with PS2. I did look at the DVDs real quick. I wanted to see if they had Buffy the Vampire Slayer on DVD. They did not. They had more on the wall that was of like more of the box sets, but they didn't have what I was looking for. Now, this was half-price books. I found this Lights, Camera, Pans game. I literally just played through it today. Unfortunately, the disc is scratched on it, so it actually doesn't play super well. There's Looney Tunes. I saw that too. I thought that was pretty cool. I hadn't seen that one before. But the Lights, Camera, Pans game, unfortunately, the cutscenes will freeze on it. So, like, I'll have to restart the game every time. Almost every time a cutscene starts. Not every time, but a lot of the times. And then it will let me proceed, and it will just skip the cutscene after I reload the game. But it's kind of a pain in the butt to do. But at least I did get the footage I needed. And it is a fun game. I'll just have to find a better copy later on for cheaper. Maybe just get a disc-only copy or something later on since I have the case now. Saw Demon's Souls. Tempted by it, but went ahead and passed. They actually had quite a few PS3 games at this half-price books. One thing that they had that I wish I would have gotten on camera again, they had a GameCube game. They had Skies of Arcadia on the GameCube, but they wanted $200 for it. Again, those GameCube prices are just too expensive for me to want to collect for. They had the Dead Space trilogy on PS3 here. I was tempted by that, honestly, but I have seen those games for cheaper at some of the game stores I've been to. And if I'm going to spend money, you know, why not just wait and get them cheaper? Like, when it comes to these games, I see them all the time. They're not rare. I figured, hey, I'll just go to one of the many game stores that I've seen them at where they're selling them for less than $10. I did see that they had a small selection of PS1 games, and I got really tempted by this Duke Nukem Time to Kill, and I decided to pass on it because the case was really gross. Honestly, the case was disgusting. I don't know what someone had done to that thing beforehand, but it had just gunk all over it, and I didn't want it when I saw that. But still, it is what it is, right? So it happens sometimes. Sometimes you get past just because something's kind of gross looking or grody looking. I did check there are Wii games and 360 games, and I did find one 360 game, actually, and I was kind of excited to find it. I saw this Two Worlds. It was fantasy, and I was just like, oh, I like fantasy settings. Looks like Dungeons & Dragons style fantasy. I'll pick it up. So, yeah, overall, I had a really good haul, and you are about to see the haul here in a minute. So let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and start getting towards that area. Before we get completely to the haul, I was looking at the Xbox One games as well, just because I did end up buying a Rare Replay earlier in the week, and I saw that they had it. I had that Rare Replay / Gears of War bundle, and I actually picked it up for about $7, and I saw they had it for $10, so I guess I got a pretty good deal on that. And they did have Saints Row 4 with Get Out of Hell. That's a really good game, but the case was really torn up for it, so I had to pass on that one too. I want my games to be in good condition. At least I want them to at least look nice, you know. That's why I want the cover art and stuff. I don't care too much about the manuals and stuff, but I want the cases to look good. I did see Defiance too, which you'll see that here in a minute. Yeah, right there. It's a great MMO. I love this MMO, and I wish it was still around, because I would still be playing it to this day if it was still up and running, but unfortunately they shut it down. Maybe one day they'll bring it back. I highly doubt it, but maybe. I keep hoping that they'll bring back the series in general, honestly. But is what it is. I looked at the Xbox games as well. Nothing was calling out to me, though. I saw that they had a Legend of Spyro game, but I actually saw that earlier in the day on the PS2, and I'd rather have it for the PS2 personally. And I did go ahead and look at some of the older games for any of you guys that collect some of the older stuff. They had some NES games, not a huge selection or anything like that, but they had Super Mario Bros. And they had some sports games and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. I was looking for some of the GameCube games too, but they didn't have any of them in the case. And when it comes to, I'm sorry, not GameCube games, Mega Drive. I was looking at Mega Drive games, but they didn't have them in the case, unfortunately. Okay, so here is the haul for today. I got quite a few games here. I'm excited to show you guys what I picked up. I don't usually go to these places too often, so when I go to a place like this and I get a chance to pick up this many games, I get excited, and I got obviously pretty excited. I picked up all these, so let's go ahead and go over what I picked up. So at Half Price Books, I picked up Two Worlds. I had never heard of this before. This is the only actually Xbox 360 game I picked up today. Everything else is PS2. But I picked up this Two Worlds game. I don't really know what it is, but it's a fantasy game, and I'm always looking for fantasy games. I love fantasy settings and stuff like that. I'm a big Dungeons & Dragons nerd, so whenever I see anything like that's in a fantasy setting, I always kind of want to try it out. So saw that, went ahead and picked it up. Picked up Gauntlet. I have never played a Gauntlet game before. Picked this also up at Half Price Books. I had to swap the case out. I had a pink case sitting around, so I put it in this pink case. But I didn't have... the case it had was really damaged, but the actual cover art and everything, and the manual and everything for it was actually in really good condition. So all I had to do was just throw it in this instead. It wasn't even a PS2 case that was in; it was like a movie case or something. But so anyway, I got this. I've never played any of the Gauntlet games before. I know that they've been around for a very, very long time, but I didn't know that there was one on PS2. So I saw it and I was just like, "Hey, might as well go ahead and give it a shot." It's kind of weird seeing the fact that it has online on it. It's always weird seeing the online on the PS2. I never used the online back in the day on the PS2. Since that's Midway, actually, we'll stick with the Half Price Books games. I got another Midway game I'll show here in a minute. I had never seen this before, Looney Tunes Back in Action. I hadn't seen this game before, so I went ahead and picked it up. I don't know much about it, but I grew up watching Looney Tunes, so why not? It's also complete. Not all of these games are complete. Honestly, I'm not a, completionist collector, so if something doesn't have the manual, it's not a huge deal to me. Here is Lights, Camera, Pants, SpongeBob SquarePants. This is a phenomenal party game. I love this. I loved it growing up. I was actually looking at my shelf the other day, and I couldn't believe I didn't have a copy of it, so glad to have it now back in the collection, and yeah, also complete. So these are the 4 games that I picked up at Half Price Books. Everything else was from Disc Replay, and I love Disc Replay. I love going there, especially that one specifically because they have so many PS2 games. So let's go ahead and get into what I picked up at Disc Replay. So here is Defender. I wanted to show this because this is another Midway game like Gauntlet was. So there's that. This is like a 3D spaceship shooter. I played it a lot growing up, and I tried to play it a few years back because I actually do have the disc. I just didn't have a case for it. And honestly, I remember playing it and thinking that it didn't age very well, but I'm going to give it another shot and try it out because I do have a lot of nostalgia for this game, and it is a really cool looking game. Like, I love the gameplay of it. There's some missions where you have to, like, save space. In fact, you can see it. They're, like, saving astronauts right there and stuff like that. You're trying to save them before these aliens, like, pick them up. It's a really cool game. I really enjoyed it. This is PK Out of the Shadows. Don't really know much about this. I hadn't heard of this before, so I went ahead and picked it up. But it looks like it's just another Disney like kind of superhero game with Donald Duck. So I figured, why not? Made by Ubisoft, and also complete. This one's kind of interesting. So this is Fairly Odd Parents Breaking the Rules. Now, I never played the PS2 version growing up. I played the PC version, actually. And the PC version is a very different game than what this is. This is like a 3D game. The PC game was like a 2D game. So I'm interested to see how different it is from the PC version of it. So it's a cool pickup. Escape from Monkey Island. I've never played one of these before. It's one of those LucasArts games. So I've always heard good things about the Monkey Island games. And this one was a 3D one. So I figured, hey, why not? I don't know if it's like a platforming game. It says there's puzzles and stuff like that. I don't really know too much about this. I just know that a lot of people like these games. So I figured, hey, it's pretty... Oh yeah, it also has a Blockbuster disc, which is pretty cool. I always like seeing like the old Blockbuster discs and stuff like that. I mainly had Family Video growing up, but still, even seeing any rental store stuff is always cool to me. Now, this one I'm super happy about. I love the Flat Out games, specifically Flat Out 2. This is the one I played a lot growing up. Whenever I had friends come over to my house, this is what we played. We would play the arcade mode in this constantly, where you would just launch yourself out of the car and stuff like that. It's such a great game, and it's one that I can't recommend enough. I personally would say that this is the best racing game on PS2. It's phenomenal, and the soundtrack is perfect. It's got Rob Zombie, it's got Megadeth, Nickelback, it's got a good soundtrack, and it's just a phenomenal game. If you have not played Flat Out 2, you are probably missing out on one of the best racing games ever made. I love that game. This next one, I was very excited to see, because I've been looking for this. I actually didn't know it existed until a few weeks back, and now, once I saw it, I've been kind of waiting for a copy to pop up. And I picked it up. This was the most expensive game that I picked up today because it was $40, which is a lot for a pre-owned game, but this game is pretty pricey anyway online, so I went ahead and got it, and I've been wanting it, and this was in good condition. Aliens vs. Predators, Alien vs. Predator Extinction. I'm pretty excited about this. I love Aliens vs. Predator. It's like my favorite movie series, and when I found out that this PS2 game existed, I had to pick it up eventually. I knew that it was on my list as soon as I saw that it existed. And the cool thing about it is that it's actually like... So there's a PS3 Aliens vs. Predator game too, and it's really good too. I really like that one. It's a first-person shooter, but this one, as you can see, is like more like an army building game. It's like a... What's the real-time strategy style game? It's kind of like that. It looks like Halo Wars, but without the base building. And that's why I've heard people describe it as. It's basically like a real-time strategy game, just without the base building. Instead, it's just mainly focused on unit building instead. But still, I saw this and I was just like, that's really cool. And it is complete, too. Let's flip this manual around here. It's in there backwards. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited to try this out and play it for the channel and do a review for it, because it's one I've been wanting to play for a while. This is another game that I'm glad to have back in the collection, Kim Possible. This one doesn't have the manual, but that's not a huge deal. This is actually a super underrated game. No one talks about this, but this game is phenomenal. It's actually a side-scrolling platforming game. It's like one of those 2.5D platformers, and it is so good. You get to play as Kim Possible and, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Shigo, that's her name. You get to play as her and Kim Possible, and it's a really, really cool game. I really enjoy this one, and I think that this is a hidden gem on the PS2. People don't talk about it, and they should. It's amazing. Next up, I got a couple Dragon games. I don't know much about these, but they're more fantasy games. Dragon Rage. This one was kind of cheap, so I was just like, well, why not? It kind of looks interesting. 3DO is the publisher of it, so... I thought it was kind of interesting. Saw a 3DO on it, and I was just like, they've made some good stuff. I think they made the Army Men games, so I figured, why not give it a shot, right? then saw this. This is an M-rated game, which I don't have a whole lot on the PS2, I don't think. So this is Draken the Ancient Gates. And this is one I've also kind of been keeping my eye on a little bit. There's some like air battles and stuff like that. It looks like you're like a dragon rider, so it's pretty cool. I'm excited to check this out and see what it's all about. Now this one is another one that I've actually, a lot of these I've had my eye on, and that's why I went ahead and picked them up in one go. Oh, did I show the manuals in there? There's that. And I don't know if I showed the manual on that one too. There you go, just in case I didn't. I've had my eye on this one too. Shepherd's Crossing. This is like a farming RPG, I think. And I love farming RPGs, and it talks about here, it's just like, you know, your plot of land becomes thriving farm. So yeah, it's a farming RPG. And I've had my eye on it for a while. The manual is so tiny for this one. But this is one I've been excited for. This is one I've been looking at and I've been wanting to play. I don't know much about this game other than it's another farming RPG, and I like having those for any system at all. And this is one that I'm glad to finally have in the collection. It's one I've been watching. And then we have this, Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning. I've only played this once, and I played on the original Xbox. It's not a terrible game, but I didn't like the way they took the franchise with this game. I think that this game is just kind of okay, because this is more of a beat-em-up style game. They kind of left the platform behind and became more of a beat-em-up, and I think that was a mistake. I don't like that direction. You know, the Legend of Spyro series is all basically, I think, beat-em-ups. I think every single one is. It's not my particular favorite thing out there, but it is a Spyro game, and I do love Spyro, so I did want to pick it up. But I think that you should have just kept the 3D formula for these games. I would have enjoyed the story a lot more for these games if they would have been just regular 3D platformers, because the stories actually aren't too bad. You can see Cinder right there. The stories aren't bad. It's just, yeah, you know. And also Elijah Wood as Spyro wasn't my favorite thing either. Alright, and last, and I don't know if it's least or not because I've never played it, so this is Phantasy Star Universe. I've never played a Phantasy Star game, I don't think, ever. So, hopefully this is good. I don't really know. I know a lot of people like the Phantasy Star games. I think they're like JRPGs. This one says 12 different chapters in it, 3 expansive worlds with 70 different enemy species. It's got like, you can kind of see like the way that it looks there. It kind of looks like the art looks interesting for that. I can't really tell if that's like just a picture of a character or if it's like going to be an animated scene there. I can't really tell, but it's kind of interesting art style for it. So I'm interested to check it out. Why not? It's made by Sega, so it can't be super terrible. All right, so that's the pickups for today. I got a lot, but now I don't have to get a lot for a while, so now I'm good. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, subscribe button down below. I'll talk to you next time. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.